Welcome back to another episode of the DFS Express. I am your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, and today we are going to be talking about UFC Witchita. It is another slate breakdown. Just a quick reminder, if you leave a 5-star review to this podcast on iTunes, you will be entered to win a free DFS Army t-shirt. Going to be drawing a winner at the end of the month. Speaking of DFS Army, they are the sponsor of this podcast. Make sure you are a VIP member. Go to dfsarmy.com. Use the code SNIPER for 20% off your membership. We'll do full breakdowns of these fights. I give rankings for all my plays, anticipated GPP exposures. There's a VIP podcast, which is the only place you can get myself, Kyle Marley, and the Fantasy Football Geek, all talking MMA, giving our plays, breakdowns, predictions, all good stuff. And on top of that, the usual NBA, NHL, MLB is going to start up. So make sure you are a DFS Army VIP. Also, the next episode of this podcast will not be a slate breakdown. I'm going to have an interview, which I am recording tomorrow, which is Friday. Probably release it on Monday. An interview with Mr. Bear. He is a DFS Army coach. We're going to be talking NBA and some strategy advice as NBA gets towards late season and playoff time, how it changes from just playing NBA DFS in general. So I know we've gone through a little run here of MMA and soccer content. I am fulfilling that promise to branch out with the next episode, so a little preview there. But let's get into what this episode is about, and let's talk about UFC Witchita. The main event for this card, by the way, is Derek Lewis taking on Junior Dos Santos. But our first fight of the night is Alex White at 8,600, taking on Dan Moret at 7,600. Odds on this fight, White's the favorite, minus 145. Comeback on Moret is plus 125. Quick breakdown on this fight is Alex White is not very good. He can be controlled on the ground. I do think he'll have the striking advantage in this fight, although Moret looked decent on the feet against Gilbert Burns. Burns can one of those BJJ guys. We'll actually talk about something similar to this later, where he can swing freely because no one's going to want to take him down. Moret has a good grappling game from what I saw in film. I think he can expose White, and I think he's got enough striking to stay in this fight on the feet and be dangerous there as well. Dan Moret, the first underdog I'm picking on this card at 7,600. Alex Morono, 9,100, taking on Zach Otto at 7,100. Morono, minus 165, comeback on Otto, plus 145. That's quite a price tag for a $9,100 fighter, but unfortunately, or fortunately in the sense that we're going to have a lot of close and exciting fights on this card, a lot of fights lined close, as the price would indicate for a minus 165 favorite. That's kind of how DraftKings always spreads people out. It is unfortunate for pricing, fortunate in that a lot of fun fights in the card. And Morono's a guy I'm going to pick here. I'm not a fan of Zach Otto. He's not a lot of volume. I don't think he hits very hard. His wins are, against guys like Mitch Clark, I think was a win. Mike Pyle. I'm thinking of Josh Berkman. Josh Berkman, Kunamoto, lost to Sage Northcutt, and got a very fortunate split decision win against Dwight Grant last time out, hometown cooking there. Could be fighting for his job here, and for his sake, I think it's good he's not. I think Morono, more dangerous in the feet, more explosive, more volume, good ground game. We've seen Zach Otto can be controlled on the ground. Morono's a BJJ black belt. Again, more volume, power, better ground game all around. He's my pick here at 9,100. Luis Smolka, 8,300, taking on Matt Danger Schnell at 7,900. Smolka, the favorite, minus 120. Comeback on Schnell is plus 100. I'm going to lean towards Smolka on this fight. I know his checkered past and just not showing up. He's been very public about his drinking issues. Seems to be over that, so good on him for that. Matt Schnell is a guy I think gets too comfortable off his back, is dangerous with submissions. Schnell should be the better striker in this fight, but I also don't trust his chin. He was knocked out by a short hammer fist by, God, the name is escaping me. Pull up DraftKings, that'll help me out real quick. Hector Sandoval in that fight. So Smolka's going to want to scramble. I think he's the better grappler. Schnell, like I said, he's dangerous off his back, but I don't like relying on guys like that. I think Smolka will be able to get this to the ground and do enough damage there. If the fight stays on the feet, if Schnell can keep it on the feet and his chin holds up, I think he's better off there, but the more likely to win the fight and have a higher ceiling in his wins is Luis Smolka, so he'll be my preferred play at 8,300. Next up, a fight we saw in LFA about a year ago. Jeff Hughes, 9,300, taking on Maurice Green at 6,900. Maurice Green won his fight on the Ultimate Fighter. I believe that was the finale fight. It was the heavyweight season, a season I really did not watch pretty much at all. Wasn't a good season. Maurice Green lost to Jeff Hughes by unanimous decision a year ago. Hughes has gone on to fight on the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series since then. I think this fight goes down pretty much the same way. I know I have very publicly said rematches almost never go the same way, but the way that fight played out is the way you would expect it to. And I don't see much difference here. Hughes, grinding type of fighter, should get takedowns, good top pressure, more volume on the feet. The only thing for Green is they're heavyweights and anything could happen, but I think Hughes is the more well-rounded fighter and the better ground game. Green is live to a submission. Anybody who hits, a heavyweight who can hit a triangle is worth, it's worth mentioning. But I think Hughes is the better fighter. He'll be my preferred play at 9,300. Next up, Grant Dawson, 8,700, taking on Julian Juicy J. Arosa at 7,500. Dawson, the favorite, -170. Arosa, the comeback, is +150. Look, Juicy J has got no chin. He's been hit before. Better technical striker than Dawson, but Dawson is a buzzsaw on the ground. Some unknowns in this fight. Dawson's also a finisher, but because we don't... And Arosa does have good takedown defense. It's one of those... If this fight gets to the ground, Dawson should have an advantage. I don't rate Arosa very highly. On the feet, I do think he'll have the advantage, but can Dawson get it down there? Ultimately, I'm going to favor Dawson because even on the feet, if Arosa gets hit with one shot, even when he has the advantage technically, I don't trust him to not go out. So Dawson will be my preferred play. I hope he gets the fight to the ground. In his price range, I think there are better options, but I am going to favor Dawson here at 8,700. Yana Kunitskaya, 8,900, taking on Marion Renault at 7,300. Kunitskaya -170. Comeback on Renault is +150. I wish this fight was closer on DraftKings. I like Kunitskaya a lot here. Renault is over 40. Is constantly in trouble. Pulls out these late victories, which, good for her for doing that, showing some resolve. She was, dominated by Sarah McMahon. Last time out against Kat Zingano. Zingano dominated her with top pressure. Talita Bernardo was a back-and-forth fight. Eventually, Bernardo gassed out. Renault was tired, too. Renault does not have a great gas tank. I think that's a good advantage that Kunitskaya has. I also think Kunitskaya is deceptively strong. Can get takedowns here because Renault is always taken down. I don't rate Renault terribly highly on the feet. I think Kunitskaya is going to get her in the clinch, get takedowns, really outmuscle her. Renault is good off her back, and that Kunitskaya has been subbed before. That's, in my opinion, Renault's only path to victory in this one. I don't like relying on fighters like that. I like Kunitskaya quite a bit. I don't know what word I just said there. Quite a bit in this matchup. I do just wish she was a little bit cheaper, but she's the preferred play at 8,900. Anthony Martin, 9,200, taking on Sergio Moraes at 7,000. Martin the favorite in this one, -200. Moraes +170. I alluded to that Gilbert Burns similarity earlier, and this is where it is. Moraes is such a good ground fighter that he just wings bombs. And for the first 90 seconds of this fight, that's what he's going to be doing. Anthony Martin, speaking of third-round finishes, he's got a ton of them. I am actually in the minority, I think, from what I've seen on MMA Twitter. I'm going to lean towards Sergio Moraes in this fight. I think Anthony Martin is a good grappler, but we've seen him out-grappled before, and Sergio Moraes is a world-class grappler. Now, Moraes has to get this fight to the ground, and Martin does have good takedown defense, But because of how Moraes is able to move in, wing bombs, I think Martin's more technical in the feet. Moraes has the power, could land something there. I also think he's going to use his striking to close the distance. Get in these grappling exchanges and find his way to the mat. Even if you're on the Anthony Martin side, this is a close fight. I'm just leaning towards Moraes. I don't know how Martin scores well here. I don't see him knocking out Moraes early. He could win a decision. That's his path to victory. 9,200 on this card. That doesn't interest me a whole lot. So my pick to win the fight is Moraes at 7,000. More importantly, I think either way he makes for a better DraftKings play at that price. Omari Akhmedov, 8,500, taking on Tim Boetsch at 7,700. Akhmedov, the favorite in this one, minus 135. Comeback for Boetsch is plus 115. Akhmedov coming off of a split decision loss to Marvin Vettori. Or that was a draw. Not a loss, sorry. That was a draw. He was 10-8 in the last round. Does not have a good gas tank. He's moved up to middleweight. Haven't seen Tim Boetsch in a long time. Talk of retirement from him. Yeah, it's a tough fight for me to get a read on. Last time out, Tim Boetsch he was submitted by Antonio Carlos Jr. I've gone back and forth in this fight, and I continue to do so. I think that Akhmedov hits harder. Boetsch, I think, is the... It's weird because Boetsch, at one point in his career, fought at 205. I think he actually moves a little better. He moves well for a big guy. Close fight. This is a fight that I want both sides of on DraftKings. I want to grab the prop real quick for you. It's fight does not go to decision, minus 205. I'm going to side with Akhmedov in this one. Tim Boetsch, a lot of damage over in his career. Akhmedov, I think his gas tank will be okay. He's faded a bunch before. He had some trouble spots on the ground in that Vettori fight that I think took some of the gas out of him. God, and then the movement of Boetsch is where I really struggle here. And Boetsch is explosive, can knock people out, hits really hard, and we've seen Akhmedov fade. So that's the side that, all right, I'm switching again. I'm going to take Tim Boetsch. Clearly, it's not very competent. I especially like that he's 7,700 and can get a finish here. I'd say Tim Boetsch is my preferred play, but if Akhmedov were to finish him, I would not be surprised. I'm playing both sides of this fight. Beneil Dariush, 9,000, taking on Drew Dober at 7,200. Dariush minus 200. Dober, the comeback, plus 170. Less back and forth in this fight. Dariush should win, but it's a matter of how shot he is. It's something we've heard the last few fights. He's going to want to smother Drew Dober. Dober is underrated. He's been in the UFC for a long time now. You'd be shocked at how many fights he's had in the UFC. I think it's near 10, 8 or 9 at least. On a 3-fight win streak. Those wins, though, are Josh Berkman, Frank Camacho, John Tuck. Anytime he takes a step up in competition, he does take a loss. Does have a good win over Scott Holtzman. He can get takedowns. He's got a good takedown game, but Dariush is a black belt in BJJ. I think the better grappler. Drew Dober hits hard. Dariush's chin, has been susceptible. We've seen it before. He's got a lot of mileage on him. I think Dariush overall is the more well-rounded fighter. He'll be my pick and my preferred play. But for the chin issues and how hard Drew Dober hits, I don't mind him in GPPs for 7,000. Sorry, for 7,200. Next up, Blagoy Ivanov, 8,400, taking on Big Ben Rothwell at 7,800. Ivanov, the favorite, minus 125. The comeback on Rothwell is plus 105. Look, I don't rate Blagoy Ivanov at all. Lost to JDS last time out, but he's got no volume. Doesn't hit incredibly hard. No takedown game, really. He's got a Sambo background, but just does not look good in the cage. Coming over from, World Series of Fighting, now PFL. I just don't think he's very good from what I've seen on film. Rothwell, on the other hand, we haven't seen in almost 3 years now. But he should be better everywhere. If his head is still in it, and he's not totally a shot fighter, I do think Rothwell outclasses Blagoy everywhere. I think he's way stronger, hits way harder. I actually think he even moves better. Blagoy is a small heavyweight. Give me Rothwell at 7,800. It's too risky for cash games, but Rothwell will be one of my favorite plays on the card in GPPs as 7,800. The one worry there, by the way, is that Rothwell is tentative after 3 years and doesn't go for the kill right away. The 7,800 doesn't take a ton to pay off that price tag. So it's for that reason, and I'm circling back to it's not an all-in fight, but I do like Rothwell quite a bit, especially at plus odds. Tim Means, 8,800, taking on the hybrid Nico Price at 7,400. Tim Means minus 200, Nico Price plus 170. I think that Tim Means is the better fighter. I just don't know how well he's going to score here. Nico Price has upside in that he has power. We've seen him knock people out before, get some wins on the ground. He just hasn't faced a high level of competition. Tim Means is the better overall fighter. One last time against Ricky Rainey, pretty much dominated him in that fight before getting a knockout, got a couple takedowns. Losses to Bilal Muhammad. He's going to be the better technical fighter on the feet, good stand-up, good range. I don't think Price is going to be able to get him down if it hits the ground. I'm a little worried because Price is shown to be slick there. Ultimately, though, I don't know where Price has a significant advantage over Tim Means. Tim Means is the pick in this fight. I will say, though, outside of Ricky Rainey, he typically does not score well on DraftKings, other than he does have knockouts over Sabah Hamasi and John Howard, but those guys are exactly who they sound like. They're not very good either. Tim Means is the preferred play, but not one of my favorites on the card. Curtis Melender, 8,200, taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos at 8,000. Melender, up-and-coming prospect in this division. He's minus 120. Zaleski dos Santos, the comeback is plus 100. Melender, really good striking. Saw it against CR Bahadurzada, but can't stop a takedown. He can be taken down, and when he gets there, he's way too comfortable off his back. I know we haven't seen a ton of it from Zaleski, but that's where the advantage is for him in this fight. It's weird that in a striker versus grappler matchup, you want Zaleski to be getting takedowns. Zaleski, by the way, on a 5-fight win streak. Akhmedov, Lyman Good, Max Griffin, Vandermeeny last time out, and Sean Strickland. Has big power. Melender also does have some of that tall man defense. When he backs straight up, he can be hit. Dos Santos hits really hard. It's a capoeira background. The hype train is on Melender, though. I think his striking overall is better. I just like that Dos Santos is... I like that Dos Santos will be under-owned. I think most of the field will be on Melender here. He's very popular. I will have some shares to hedge my Dos Santos exposure because if you cannot tell, I am taking Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I think he's got multiple paths to victory with the knockout from that defense that I mentioned from Melender. Takedowns, I think he will have the advantage on the ground if this fight goes there. I know he doesn't do it a bunch, but he can. He took down Lyman Good and Keita Nakamura. He can do it. You don't have to be a world-class grappler to get Melender down. So I'm picking Zaleski dos Santos. He's my preferred play at 8,000. I will say, Melender, if this would not surprise me at all if he gets a quick finish on the feet. His striking is that good. I just think he needs to shore up some of these holes, and Dos Santos can take advantage here. All right, main event time. Junior Dos Santos, 9,400, taking on Derek Lewis at 6,800. Dos Santos minus 210, Lewis plus 175. Look, the breakdown in this fight is pretty easy. We all know it. Dos Santos is the better striker, better boxer. Lewis is just a brawler, big power, one-shot power, can be losing the whole fight till he gets a knockout. We saw it against Volkov. Neither one of these guys are probably going to go for a takedown. Neither one have great volume. This fight is a terrible stack in cash games. Definitely not stacking. I think you can have shares of Lewis for that one-punch power, but it's not a ton. I have to favor Dos Santos to box him up for 5 rounds or for as long as Lewis lasts. I don't know if he's the gas tank to go 5 rounds. So it's a more of a scoring issue for Junior Dos Santos. Can he get 100 without finishing in the first round? Probably. But how much do you need it on this card? I will have some shares of both guys. I just don't think this is a main event I want to be overexposed to, because typically main events generally are overowned. So JDS, though, will be the pick and preferred play at 9,400, but I won't be full fading Derek Lewis at 6,800. So that's what I have for the UFC Wichita breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please give me a follow on Twitter at the DF Sniper. Like, comment, subscribe to this podcast, whether it's on iTunes or YouTube. Give the good old thumbs up on YouTube. I appreciate it. Again, subscribe on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. Be entered to win a DFS Army t-shirt drawn at the end of the month. And make sure you follow me on Twitter as well if you enter that. And that's where I'll be doing the drawing. I'll announce it on the podcast as well. But I'll do the drawing live on Twitter. And become a DFS Army VIP member. Full breakdowns. I'll go more in depth on these fights, where my exposures are, etc. DFSArmy.com. Code SNIPER for 20% off. Good luck in your contest, guys. We'll see you next time. Next episode will be an NBA talk with Mr. Bear.